taken some strange turns.
But none more bizarre than a proposal for a tribe-owned casino some 300 miles away. Tonight, News Channel 8's Ed Pierce concludes his series of special reports, Murder on the Reservation.
Well, the legal battle to over control of the Winnemucca Indian Colony began with the murder of Chairman Glenn Wasson. The power struggle may have started earlier with a proposal for an Indian casino. That idea surfaced again this year, but in an unexpected location. February 2000, a traditional prayer chant sung as the Western Shoshone buries one of its leaders. 66-year-old Glenn Wasson, chairman of the Tribal Council at the Winnemucca Indian Colony, had been found lying in a pool of blood outside the colony offices. 10 days earlier, he had announced his intention to expel the tribe's vice chairman, William Bills, from the council. Bills, he had discovered, was not an Indian at all, but 100% Filipino, ineligible even for tribal membership. The two men had been at odds months earlier over Bill's proposal to build a casino on tribal land, an idea Wasson and the rest of the council opposed. Following the rejection, Bill stopped attending council meetings. But after Wasson's death, it was Bills who emerged as the colony's new chairman. Other council members say they were forced out. Bills brought in Alan Ambler, then chairman of Lovelock, to manage the colony's only revenue source, the Winnemucca Smoke Shop. A legal battle over the colony's leadership began. That battle and Glenn Wasson's murder are still unresolved. Bill's chairmanship didn't survive the struggle, as the Bureau of Indian Affairs withdrew its recognition of his leadership, or any authority, at the colony.
There is one last strange chapter to this story, and it takes place far from the Winnemucca Indian Colony.
This is Lodi, a community of about 60,000 in California's Central Valley. William Bills was born nearby in Stockton and spent much of his youth in this area. At some point, Bills left the leadership battle in Winnemucca and returned here with a familiar idea.
Bill's proposal was an Indian casino here at Flag City along Interstate 5, 7 miles outside Lodi, 275 miles from the Winnemucca Indian Colony.
Telling local officials he was the tribal chairman in Winnemucca, he said he had plans to build a 20,000-square-foot casino named the Great Basin. The casino would be owned by and operated for the benefit, he said, of the colony in Winnemucca.
By all accounts, the casino proposal was going nowhere. Local officials were highly skeptical of William Bills. They'd soon have another reason to doubt him.
On September 25th, Bills walked into this Wells Fargo bank in downtown Lodi. Bank officials say he identified himself as the chairman of the Winnemucca colony, and he wanted to access tribal accounts containing as much as $250,000.
The bank officials did some research and determined that the documents he was providing were false. The bank officials called the Lodi Police Department and indicated that he was going to be returning to supply more documents in order to access his account.
When he returned 2 days later, Lodi detectives were waiting.
And some of the IDs that he presented to the bank officials indicating that he had access to the account later determined to be fraudulent. ID badges belonging to, that he actually manufactured, indicating he was an official of the Department of the Interior, and he also had a homemade badge.
Bills was arrested. Today he's facing charges of fraud and possession of false government documents. His bid for a casino gone, still claiming to be chairman, at one point arguing he's protected by diplomatic immunity and can only be tried in tribal court. The case against him in Lodi appears solid. Back in Winnemucca, the murder that started it all is unsolved, and the struggle for control of the colony and its assets drags on in court. Now, William Bills is out on bail. He faces a preliminary hearing on the California charges next week. He's also wanted on a bad check charge here in Washoe County. Dad?
Ed, I know you've been working on this story for a long time. Where does it go from here?
Well, it continues, and it's likely we'll be revisiting it. The murder investigation is still open. The legal tug-of-war over the colony's government languishes in court. One tribal council meets in Winnemucca, another in exile. And this dispute has turned very bitter with reports of death threats and at least one physical assault. And there's considerable concern about the lack of federal oversight on the tribe's finances. Through it all, the Bureau of Indian Affairs maintains a hands-off attitude, saying it has no responsibility until the leadership issue is solved in tribal court. Working on this story, I've been struck by the deep distrust and lack of faith among Native Americans for federal agencies like the FBI and the Bureau of Indian Affairs. When murders go unsolved and tribal governments go unrecognized for years, those feelings don't change, and not much else changes either. The colony today still lacks basic infrastructure and basic social services. A resident called last night to dispute the claim voiced by someone in our story that there was no law there. There is, she said, but she admitted the closest law enforcement with authority to enter the colony were BIA officers in Lovelock or McDermott, an hour away. People should be able to expect better from a government charged with their welfare. Ed Pierce, News Channel 8.
Thanks.